Okay, everyone, we've given it about 5 minutes. We've got quite a few people in. As you see, we'll see that I am recording this session. It's going to be added to the website and we will be sharing with our newsletter. But I'm really excited about today. It's been a long time in the making, Michael. We've had lots of conversations, been involved in supporting a lot of Michael's work, but very excited and also very encouraging to see how many people are interested in this topic. I am going to, let me just put it on speaker view. And then, so I don't know how many of you know Michael, but he is amazing. And he actually just told me that he was an actor as well, an actor, a singer, a musician, and a dancer. So we are in good company for some entertainment today. But he's like a visionary entrepreneur and very specifically the driving force behind Afrigate Travel, which is Africa's leading LGBTQ plus travel company. But he's got lots of irons in lots of fires. I'm going to let him explain or introduce a little bit more about who he is. And then we're obviously going to get onto this talk about embracing diversity. Now, again, we just spoke and we said that although diversity in this sense, we are focusing on LGBTQ. Are you, sorry, we are focusing on the LGBTQ, but it actually goes for everything that we do in life. I'm just going to hand over to Michael because he's got pretty words being an actor. So Michael, thank you very much. The floor is yours, sir. Break a leg.
Hanali, thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. And before I go into this, Hanali, just from my perspective, and the support I get from SATSA is wonderful and very encouraging, and it's really exciting. An organization like the one you're with, like SATSA, is invested in this because we need to be. It's a really important conversation, and the future of it is really, really big, which I will show shortly. So again, good morning, everyone. It's great that you're all here. As Hanli mentioned, this is not a webinar, this is not a lecture. I mean, I've got a lot of information, a lot of insights, a lot of facts, a lot of stories, and some fun videos and stuff as well. But I want this to be as interactive as possible, please. So please don't be shy to ask questions. I mean, we will have a little question session in the middle, and we'll have a question session at the end as well. But if you're in the middle of something and I'm speaking about something that you're not sure about or unsure or not clear, raise your hand and let's ask the question. Let's address it, because the conversation is very valuable and it can be a little daunting sometimes, but it's also not. This is session 1, which I'm very excited about. Session 2 in a couple of weeks' time. So I'm not going to touch on any of session 2 stuff at all today. This is more of a kind of introduction and dumping a whole lot of really interesting information and insights onto you on the approach that we take with this inclusive LGBTQ plus tourism concept as a whole. I know there are a lot of us in the room, so I'm not going to ask everyone to, but what I would like, please, is 2 or 3 of you, if you would like to just introduce yourselves and tell us why you are here and what is, if there's something that interests you about this, is there something you want to get out of it, if you have an expectation, if you have a specific kind of question, because I want to steer us away from the general thinking of we welcome everyone. And you'll see as we go along today that it's a lot deeper and a lot bigger than just that. So let's take a minute or two if anybody wants to share something about why you're here or any expectations you have. Who's going to go first?
Okay, I'll go first.
Fair. I can't see you because I still can't see anyone. So
sorry, I'm trying to get in the right light in my room. I'm turning the thing in. Okay, one of the things that I know what you're saying about everybody's welcome, this type of thing, but I also feel like companies that want to jump on the bandwagon as far as like just saying everybody's welcome, but they don't really know what maybe the needs are, or like the different things that they've got to be mindful about with I know there's a lot about pronouns and these different things that are going on. I don't really see the pronouns being used in South Africa. Something that I see more like an American, when I go on YouTube, I see a lot more people in America and like her, she, them, him. So that's something that I wanted to find out about, because I had 2 ladies. And then all of a sudden you get all like, I had one lady and I had a trans I would say, trans female that came and died with us the other day on the boat. Sorry, I'm Jessica.
My chalk, yeah.
And I naturally wanted to say, the two ladies here, can you give the two ladies a copy of the video and don't charge them, right? And to my videographer. And then as I went to say it, I had to stop myself because I didn't know what to say.
Yep.
So I'm kind of like, I don't want to be in a position where like we have that happen to us again. Or do I say to the lady, the trans lady, how would you like me to address you? And then there's also that fear of, is it a trans lady? Because she looks like a woman. You know, those nervous things. So then you end up like kind of stopping and then not, and the two, you know, so those things I was interested in listening about. I don't know if that's something anybody else has found that's happening either in their establishments.
So that's a very common concern.
Hi, Maddie.
Sorry, yeah.
No, that was just somebody. Sorry, they muted themselves. Carry on.
So Jessica, that's a very common concern that we will address today. But it goes again. It goes a little deeper than just that. Yeah. I'm not going to go into too much yet because we will get there. But absolutely. I think what's an important takeout on that point is sometimes we don't know what we don't know, and that's okay. But the chance to change that, the opportunity to change that is there. Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks, Jessica. Anyone else?
Okay, I will go.
Angelica.
Good
Hola.
morning, everybody. As you can see, my name is Angelica. I'm a tour guide, but I'm also a tour operator. And the reason I'm here is because I'm the chair lady of the Cape Tourist Guides Association. And I believe that guides coming from so many different backgrounds, cultures, and religions is something that we need to expose them to learn, to accept, and to know how to welcome all different type of guests, you know. And I think this is a lot part of education. So I think this workshop is actually an opportunity to open a door, to try to assist guys on what's the right way to approach your guests, no matter who they are, where they come from. And this LGBT is something that is new for a lot of people. And a lot of people, out of respect or out of fear, not knowing how to do the right approach. So I think this is, well, that's the reason I'm here.
Thank you, Angelica. Absolutely, I agree with you. And also, I'm going to add to that as well. The LGBT guest is very, very important, of course. But what's more important is your LGBT staff. But we'll unpack that as we go along.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Angelica. Sammy?
Hi again. So one of the reasons I'm here is obviously we did a webinar on this very topic about 18 months ago. We've had a lot of engagement on it, and what I'd really love to do is make sure that we're adding to the content that we've got on the Travel Hub collection in terms of making sure that tour operators, travel agents and suppliers know how to work with the market and feel confident working with the market. So that's really what I'm here, just to kind of make sure that there's any missing gaps. Obviously, Michael, we'd already spoken about how we can try and work more closely to get that information out there. And obviously with SATSA, it'd be really great to see how we can work more closely together to educate the trade, you know, with 100 nationalities using the site. It is really important that we're able to kind of make sure that it is a global conversation that's understood.
Yeah, wonderful, Sammy, thanks. Anyone else? Perhaps one more person, if anybody wants to speak before we move on. Gone. Okay, perfect. Thank you very much for sharing, the three of you. Let's move along. Because I can't see you at all. So I think maybe raise your hand. I'm sure something will pop up with me. Very quickly, over the next a couple of hours, I'm sure it'll be less than 2 hours. We're going to talk about an agenda. What we're going to discuss today is the value of the LGBT market. So it's a bit of stats and what I find quite boring mostly, but really, really valuable information that we as an industry need to understand. Understanding the community, defining LGBTQ plus identities, recognizing and respecting identities, common challenges and experiences, creating an inclusive workplace. So we're going to chat about some practical things you can do there. And then I've called it a case study. It's more of a kind of a reference to some of the work that we are doing. And then we'll close up with some more Q&A. But as I said, please, if you have a question that you need answered, like, please go for it. I really do encourage that. I encourage a conversation, because that's where we all learn. I mean, yes, I carry a lot of information, but I like to learn from you all as well, because we all have different perceptions and different understandings of what this should actually be. One rule I will make though, please, is LGBTQ plus is quite a lot to say. So I will more than likely just say LGBT. It is perfectly acceptable from an inclusive language perspective to say that. I'm not going to say LBTQJ or anything. I'm going to say it in the correct order, but just to save time, otherwise will be until Sunday, I will more than likely just say LGBT. Cool. So let's start off with the value of the market with some stats and some really valuable information here. So,
Michael,
yes.
Can I just, because you said LGBT, and I agree with you 100%. Now, I never know, and maybe you will address this later on, LGBTQA plus T.
Wait, oh, there's a lot coming.
Yeah. So if I mean, we won't offend somebody if we just say LGBTQ or LGBT.
No, not at all. Not at all. And now I'll get into detail on that a little bit later.
Great,
I'm going to share a whole lot more acronyms with you, and then I'm going to kind of simplify it for you, because there's an easy way to do it. So we don't have to be scared of it. Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Cool. All right. So the stats I'm going to share with you now come from a few different sources, and they have been gathered since mid-COVID up until as recent as February 2024. All tourism specific. They are very much America-centric, purely because the research companies that are doing the research are based in North America, and they're doing the research there. So I mean, I'm trying to push for someone to do research here. Funding is quite challenging for that, of course, for obvious reasons. But with that said, it's still relevant, because our biggest source market in the LGBT space is North America, both Canada and USA. But at the end of the day, we're talking about people, and people are people. So no matter where they're from and where they're traveling to, the LGBT community within their own segment within the community have very similar needs and very similar desires. So it's very relevant to us, even though it is very America-centric. The stats that were gathered were taken from more than 1,000 participants, and they were very clear about ensuring that they have a proper, diverse spectrum of people within the community. So they had the right number of L people, of G people, B, T, Q, etc., which I'll unpack a little later. So it's a very well balanced set of results. So it is calculated that globally LGBT consumers are worth about $4.7 trillion. That's what they're spending every single year on everything, not just on travel. And considering we're only about 47%, I always push for about 10% and 10 to 12%, because there are a lot of people who are not out of the closet. But on paper, it's about 47%, and it's about 388 million people estimated. So it's a lot of money already just on that number of people. In the USA, the spend is about $1 trillion. In the UK, the spend is about £6 billion, and in Europe, about 50 billion euros. Put that in a travel context, in the USA alone, and this source comes from LGBT Capital from 2020. This is not updated yet. In the USA alone, LGBT travelers are spending about $100 billion on travel alone. That is massive. I'm sure you will agree. It gets even bigger. By 2030, it is estimated that the LGBT tourism market is expected to reach about $568.5 billion by 2030. And it is expected that we will reach between 30 and 35% of the markets. Now, as we talk today, you'll start to see why that's really possible, because the L, the G, the B, the T, the Q, the I, the A, the P, the 2, all of this stuff that comes with it is growing exponentially all the time. And it's just getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and it's becoming more and more valuable. So it's no longer just about the gay or the lesbian. It's expanding into a very, very diverse community. And we need to tap into all of it. So the next few slides comes from the most recent report by an organization in San Francisco called Community Marketing and Insights. They are the global leaders in LGBT research. So I've just picked a few relevant ones. I mean, I'm happy to share this entire report with you if you want. It's quite interesting. It's a lot of reading, but it's quite interesting. So they asked the participants of the survey, and if you had to pick one, which type of price point traveler are you? So you'll see, if I look at the first column where it says all LGBTQ+, a little further it breaks it all down, which I'm not going to spend too much time on, but all LGBT people, only 3% are focused on luxury travel, 38% moderate price, 28% moderate price without a little bit of luxury, and 25% budget traveler. That's really interesting because the perception is that LGBT travelers are rich and they spend a lot of money. Yeah, there are some that do, and there's some that are rich, but not everyone. As we unpack this, you'll see that the community is very much like most people. Then another question I asked was, why do you typically travel for a vacation? Who do you typically travel for a vacation with? 62% said with a partner or a spouse. So LGBT couple travel is very strong. Solo travel in the LGBT community is 44%, and then with LGBT friends, 35%. So the group LGBT travel market is pretty big for that reason. If you jump down a bit to with my pets, it's 11%. Doesn't feel like a lot, but it's quite a big number. And then with my children, the LGBT family concept is growing quite dramatically as well, which you mustn't ignore. Another question about accommodation bookings. In the past 12 months, how have you booked or purchased a hotel room or paid accommodation? 66% say on the hotel's website or direct, 41% with an OTA or multiple hotel booking sites like booking.com and so on. 37% Airbnb, etc., and tour operators and retail travel agencies are a lot smaller than that. But I think we all know that information anyway. I think it's quite general across the board, not just about LGBTQ+. But what we're trying to do from an Afrigate travel perspective is we're trying to shift that thinking to work closer with someone like us, because we are focusing very specifically on training processes and ensuring that the suppliers that we use are truly in an inclusive space. Another question from an urban vacation priority perspective: when you think of a vacation to an urban destination, which activities attract you the most? If you jump halfway down, well, a little further than halfway, explore LGBTQ+ neighborhoods, 52%, experience LGBTQ+ nightclub, 43%, and then LGBT events like Pride or film festivals, only 41%. That's jumped quite a bit since the previous research that they'd conducted in 2021. But still, it's relatively low considering the perception is that LGBT people, particularly in the gay community, will travel for something gay, like a gay club or a gay event or something like that. And it's not always the case. The majority is to do what everyone else wants to do in the destination. The importance of LGBT welcoming. This is valuable from a South Africa perspective because we are very lucky in that our constitution protects everyone. So we are automatically a safe destination. I don't like the word safe because it has a different connotation in South Africa, but for the most part, we're a safe destination. So the question is, how important are the following in your vacation destination selection processes? 83% of the participants say they want to visit a destination that is LGBTQ welcoming. Welcoming and inclusive are somewhat different things, but it's a good starting point. And then if you jump right down to the bottom, destinations are popular LGBT hosts, hotspot. Again, that talks to LGBT tourism is not about a gay travel experience. It's about a holistic experience. Then about urban concerns. Again, this talks to safety issues. When the media reports negative impressions about a city, how much do these concerns discourage you from visiting? An increase in anti-LGBT harassment and violence in the city, 82%. 73% are concerned about anti-LGBT laws being passed in the country. That's very relevant from an African travel perspective, not so much South Africa because we are still okay, but as you all know, Africa is not the same. Uganda is a great example, and it is spreading into East Africa. It's spreading into West Africa with Ghana and the surrounding countries there. There are other countries where it is just completely taboo and illegal. So it does make it very challenging from an African perspective. But that doesn't mean it's something that we must ignore. You know, from the IGLTA, the International LGBT Travel Association, they have a very strong belief in not what's the word I'm looking for? Oh, good Lord, Martino here. What's the word I'm looking for? It's gone black. It'll come to me. My point is we can't ignore the countries that have challenging environments, because the properties and the experiences and suppliers within those countries may not, and we can assist them, and we can still create a beautiful experience. Then LGBT sections on travel company websites. This will delve into more in the second session in a couple of weeks' time. But for now, many years ago, travel companies and destinations began offering specific sections or pages on their websites dedicated to the LGBT community. Do you think these types of LGBT-specific website sections are still needed? 44% of the participants said yes, they strongly feel that it should be there. 41% said they're in the middle or on the fence, and very few of them say no. So very importantly, from a marketing perspective, it's important to get that right as well. And again, we'll tap into that in session 2, not too much today. Then another interesting question they asked was, what are the most important ways that a city or destination can demonstrate that they're truly LGBT welcoming? 68% of the participants said it's very important that LGBT non-discrimination laws and policies at the local travel level. 67% say they want to see that a destination speaks out against anti-LGBT laws, and 65% of them say they know a place that strives for racial equality. Again, South African perspective, we're okay for the most part. Homophobia comes, and transphobia and gender diversity phobia comes in many different on many different levels. It's not always just about hate speech. Hate speech is not always just about anti-discrimination laws and so on. Homophobia often comes into play with a lack of understanding, a lack of education. It may not be deliberate, it may not be intentional, but it is often there. So these conversations in these surveys are really important, because it's showing a true reflection of how people feel and how they want things to shift and how they want things to change to be able to create a really inclusive environment. This one, people always ask me this question: what do we do about our bathrooms? And as part of the survey, the question was, when you see an all-gender restroom facility or sign in a hotel or a restaurant, or wherever for that matter, how does it make you feel? 54% of people said significantly more positive about the hotel or restaurant, and indicating that it is something that does need to be addressed. A lot of people are getting it right. A lot of people are trying to get it right and not quite hitting the mark. And a lot of people don't really see the point of it. I know a lot of hotels, for example, often contact me and say, what do I do? Do I have to spend money and build new bathrooms? And no, that's not the solution at all. That's like taking an antibiotic and not necessarily getting to the symptoms. Then, very interesting. I love this slide. I tend to purchase from companies that market to and support the LGBT community. 85% of the participants agree that they will support a company that is actively seen to be marketing and involved in the community. 70% of them say they will pay a premium price for a product if the product is, or if the company is actively involved or marketing to the community. And interestingly, 78% of them said they would actually switch a brand. They would be disloyal to a brand they've been using and change for those reasons as well. So as you can see in these stats, there's a lot of value in here. Now, the challenge with understanding these stats and doing the right thing by now, suddenly we're going to now focus on becoming an inclusive environment and so on. Without the right approach and the right process and the right knowledge and understanding, what tends to happen very quickly and very easily is a concept called rainbow washing or pink washing. And essentially, this is when an organization uses the LGBT community to their advantage, to gain market share, to make more money, whatever the reason is, without actually understanding the community and making the necessary changes internally to then earn what I call get the badge to be able to rainbow wash. And there's many ways one can rainbow wash, and I don't want to scare you off here, because sometimes it's okay to do this, but mostly not. And there's ways to figure that one out, which I can help with. the number of the obvious ways are Pride-only initiatives. Now, we are in International Pride Month currently. Fun facts, it is not Pride Month in South Africa. Pride Month in South Africa is in October. And the reason it's in October is because on the 13th of October, 1990, a gentleman, and I can say gentleman because he identifies as a man, his pronouns were he, him. He was an activist, an anti-apartheid activist, and an anti-LGBT discrimination activist. He started our very first Pride in South Africa in Johannesburg on the 13th of October, which is why all Pride organizations north of Cape Town celebrate Pride in October. Cape Town does it in February, March for tourism reasons, I imagine. I'm not really sure. So Pride-only initiatives, and you would see Woolworths made a bit of a faux pas last year. I'm sure you remember. They got it all wrong. They backtracked and fixed it. Vodacom is a perfect example where they, over Pride Month, they changed their logo. They put the rainbow flag in, and they don't really do very much other than that. A lot of organizations use LGBT staff as a token. It's that age-old story of, I've got a gay friend, therefore I'm not homophobic. It's pretty much the same on a corporate level. And then a lot of organizations, here in South Africa particularly as well, engage with anti-LGBT organizations without even realizing it. So that automatically then kind of shifts the perception, and LGBT communities can see that, and they're aware of it. So then they automatically are going to make the assumption that the organization is not an inclusive one. Cool. Any questions on that so far? I know it's a lot of stats and a lot of info. Cool, then. And again, I will share that full report if anybody is interested in it. It is quite an interesting read. It's really good. It's good, valuable stuff to get your head around.
Thanks, Michael. What I'll do is when I share the recording, I'll attach the research as well.
Perfect. I was making a note because I'll forget. Okay, cool. Alrighty, so let's move on to the second little section here, which refers to understanding the LGBT community. It's less heavy now, and now we can actually start having a conversation if you want. Pipe in whenever you want to. Okay, so the world is diverse. The workplace is diverse. And because of that, our thinking needs to become diverse. So now the challenge that we're always faced with, and I find this all the time in the training work that we do with organizations, is that as much as people want to talk about LGBT because it is the topic of conversation at the moment, it is, people think it's something we need to address right now, which is not untrue, but it's not necessarily just a hot topic for that reason. One of the challenges we face is that the LGBT conversation in general comes with a strange sense of taboo, or a strange sense of awkwardness or uncomfortableness or something. So it's really important to as an organization, to assess what your LGBT cultural competency is. So what does that even mean? Cultural competency, and specific to LGBTQ+, is the ability to understand, appreciate, and interact with people from cultures or belief systems that are different from our own. Now, as Hanley alluded to earlier, this is not just about LGBT people. I mean, this cultural competency applies to literally everyone. In my case, obviously, we're talking LGBT only, but it's the same principles. So again, it says the ability to understand, appreciate, and interact with people from cultures or belief systems that are different from our own. And as I said, the conversation invariably brings some kind of awkwardness, some kind of uncomfortable approach from at least one person in the room. And that is simply because there is an elephant in the room. We can't get away from it. It's just the way it is. Now, to define what the elephant in the room is, it is a controversial issue which is obviously present, but is avoided as a subject for discussion. Now, the controversial issue here is not that people have different sexual orientations or different gender identities to us. It's actually, the controversial is that we're not really talking about. And yes, we may be talking about it in this context right now, and a lot of organizations are driving the conversations, but we're not bringing the conversations into our organizations and actually asking the real hard questions and uncovering where the challenges are. So I'm going to ask you now to share, if you want to. It may be a little personal, but I'd like you to share, if you want, an experience that you may have had. So if you think back to, for example, a time in your life or an event that happened where you met someone who was different to you, who had a different sexual orientation, a different gender identity to you. And I want you tell us about that experience and how it made you feel, and what was your impression of that person, and why do you think your impression was the way it was? I'll give you a couple, like 10, 15 seconds to give it some thought, and if anybody wants to share, please raise your hand and we'll jump. Hanali, go for it.
So it's not even a personal experience. It's just one of my friends that you know as well, who is incredibly open, and there's no issues. And she went away with a group of friends, and there was a transgender person who got incredibly upset with her because she called her him, or whatever the case was. And that, like, it's so true what you say. The uncomfortableness comes from the fact that it's like being a racist, like I have a black friend, so I'm not racist, that kind of thing. But it's that fear of getting it wrong and people being so incredibly sensitive about it. It's like you rather just, like Jessica say, them.
Yeah, so you invariably screw it up in a little way, and you invariably end up offending someone without intending to offend them, and that's why I said earlier that homophobia and transphobia comes in many different forms, and although it may not be an intentional homophobic approach, you potentially are offending someone, and if you don't understand how a pronoun works, for example, as Jessica mentioned earlier, then yes, it does raise potential challenges. Thanks for sharing. Anybody else want to share a personal experience, perhaps, of someone you have met? Oh, there's definitely someone who has a story. I know that's true.
I have a funny story.
Yeah.
So we were at a birthday party. It was in a hotel, a penthouse suite, very fancy. And my partner, a male, we went, and it was obviously for a gay person. And there were all of these, those little ottomans. But he said, "Oh, I want a Springbok poof." And they all said, "Oh, here we are."
Sure. Yeah. No. It's beautiful. That talks directly to a stereotype, which we are going to chat about a little bit today as well, and why it's important for us to understand stereotypes and how they can be valuable and how they can also not be valuable at the same time, because it's because of stereotypes that we're in this position right now, and why we're even having this conversation, because of our own stereotypes and why we believe the things that we believe, and how it does affect people, and it affects people in the workplace environments, and it affects tourists, and it affects our guests, and it affects our bottom line, it affects everything, because the stereotypes that we are projecting out there can be offensive, they can be hurtful, they can tap into challenges for other people, because we don't know where they're at. 10 seconds if anybody else wants to share, and then, if not, we'll move on. And going. I suppose in a live environment, people do talk. You're all shy behind the camera there. Anyway, can you I haven't shared? Let me share this quickly. Okay, cool. Let's move on. Share screen. There we go. Alrighty. Okay, cool. So pull out the popcorn. Here's a quick little video for you to watch.
Yeah. So it's 2017, and the LGBT movement has definitely made progress over recent years. But people from the community still face an almost endless number of obstacles. So we wanted to see how straight people would react if they were the ones answering the questions. Are you straight?
Yes.
Are you straight? So you're all together, lah?
No.
Just colleagues. Really? But I mean, straight people hang out together, definitely together. Maybe it's just the phase you're going through. Maybe you'll grow out of it. Maybe when you're like 40, you're like, oh, I like men. But you're quite well groomed, like, and you're still straight.
What
does that? Yeah, what kind of stereotype is that? I thought people with short hair all are not straight. I don't know what our conclusion. But maybe you just haven't met the right woman yet. Have you all always been straight?
Yeah.
Since born, this is human nature.
You mean you didn't choose to be straight?
No, it's born inside.
So when did you decide that you were going to be straight for the rest of your life? It was.
What?
I don't answer the question.
I've never decided whether I wanted to be straight or I kind of knew that I was straight.
No, there must have been some point in your life where you're like, I'm going to be straight.
Nope.
No?
Nope.
When did you realize that, okay, you know what, I'm going to be straight?
Watching BT music videos, the women shaking, that's what got me right there.
I think my parents told me I'm straight.
Parents told you you're straight. Was there something that turned you straight?
I think I chosen it.
But there wasn't like a movie you watch where suddenly after that you're like, what's the straightest thing you have done?
That's the next rating for the thing.
How did you tell your parents you were straight?
I've never told them I was straight.
It's not said.
It's not said,
Yeah.
but they still accept you
Wait, what?
as being straight lah. Don't you think that you're flaunting too much of your straightness by holding hands in public and all?
Not really.
With so many young kids along Orchard Road, all this straightness, isn't it bad for them because they might turn straight? Just watching it again, it makes me cringe. So how? Have you been guilty of asking any of those questions to LGBT people? Or have you been on the receiving end? Either way, please share this video so that as many people as possible realize how ridiculous these questions really are.
Yeah.
So I wish I had all of your sound was on so that I could have heard your reactions to that. Does anybody want to share what your thoughts are on that in that video?
Cringe.
That's very funny.
It is funny, but it is actually, and I'm guilty.
I think we're all guilty to a degree on some level. It's okay as long as we're aware of it, and then we can shift it. Anybody else want to share on your thoughts on that video?
Yeah, I think the thing about the, you know, when he said, are you worried that everybody's going to start being straight around here? I think I've had a lot of friends who've adopted children, you know, male, like girl, you know, whatever it is. They've adopted children. They've had a lot of people say, well, are their child's going to be homosexual then? Because the two, you know, obviously they're going to be homosexual too. And I was like, well, no, I don't think you're just born what you're born with, aren't you? Just because they've got two dads doesn't mean they're automatically going to be gay or lesbian. So that was, you know, interesting.
Absolutely, absolutely. It does make you think. And hold on to that thought, Jessica, because we are going to chat a little bit later about some challenges that LGBTQ people face. Yeah, I can't even say it, LGBTQ people. I should be able to. But absolutely, it's really important that we are aware of these things. So let's move on. Share screen. There we go. Alrighty. Oh no, what have I done? I just shared the wrong screen now. How did I do that? Sorry. That's the one there. Okay. Share screen. You think I'd be good on this by now? Okay, there we go. All right. So let's chat about this long acronym here. Does anybody want to give it a go to try and guess what LGBTQIP2SAAA plus stands for? It is an acronym. We know that, and it's quite daunting.
Good grief. Good grief. No, but it's South African Airways is somewhere in there.
Yeah, everyone thinks that. Yeah, it's not that. Definitely not
Sure.
that.
Lesbian, gay, bisexual, transsexual, and the rest I don't know.
Yeah, I know it's quite challenging. Okay, so let me help you. It's yeah. So it's not transsexual, by the way, but we'll explain that. Okay, so first one is lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, questioning, intersex, pansexual, two-spirit, androgynous, and asexual. I will explain everything. You don't need to ask questions. I promise you I'll explain it all. But of course, there's a plus on the end of it there. So the plus stands for others, non-conforming, non-binary, gender-neutral, genderqueer, and there's many variations of that as well. And you may or may not have heard them, but the chances are strong that you will actually hear them. They are shifting quite dramatically, but that all kind of blends to the same way of thinking within a new gender identity. And then the last plus at the end is one of the most important ones for all of you, allies. So I usually at this point say, well done, you've all just done flying deep out the closet. You have not. But allies are equally important in this process, because without allies, the LGBT community cannot shine the way they need to. We need the allies to create inclusive spaces with us so that it becomes more open and more accepting and more welcoming. There's a reason a Pride event still exists. I'm not sure if you are aware of this, but the Pride concept about 55 years ago this year started in New York City. In June, New York City, with the Stonewall Uprising, where the police raided a gay bar in New York City in Chelsea called Stonewall Inn, which I've been to. It's an amazing space. The LGBT community at the time fought back, and they created the very first Pride movement in the world. And the purpose of a Pride is not about a party. It's not about people dressing up and walking down the street. It's about fighting for human rights at the end of the day. So that's why it's still important that these Pride events actually still exist, because there are many people in our community around the world, particularly in Africa, who are still fighting for these rights. And it's important that allies jump on board with us to help fight those rights for people. And I'm not saying we should all be activists, but every step makes. There's a little joke for you all to have a quick giggle at. I have no problem with the LGBTQ community. We're allowed to make fun of ourselves, I suppose. Okay, so let's explain this. You all know what a lesbian is. A lesbian refers to a woman who has an emotional, romantic, and/or sexual orientation towards other women. Gay refers to a man who has an emotional, romantic, and/or sexual orientation towards other men. Now, you'll see as we go through this, on the bottom right-hand corner, there is a flag. Each acronym has their own flag as well, by the way. So just for understanding.
That's so amazing. I never knew these things.
Yep. Bisexual refers to a person who has an emotional, romantic, and/or sexual orientation towards more than one gender. Now, that's the dictionary definition of it, and people do argue that because of the BI in there, which we all know in English terms refers to two. So technically, it actually has an attraction towards more than one gender, but no more than two, if that makes sense. Transgender, and the reason I said earlier, honey, that it's not transsexual. Transsexual is someone who dresses up in women's clothing or in men's clothing. Transgender is an actual gender identity where a person either goes through a medical process to transition to become a different gender to what they were assigned at birth, or lives a life without having a medical transition. So transgender is a term to describe people whose gender is not the same as or does not sit comfortably with the gender they were assigned at birth. Trans people may describe themselves using one or more variety of terms, including but not limited to transgender, non-binary, and genderqueer. What we need to avoid here is transsexual, and also the very old terrible word of hermaphrodites. No, not hermaphrodites. No, that's intersex. Tranny, a tranny. It's a terrible word. We're not allowed to say that anymore, because that refers to Frankenfurter in a little shop in Rocky Horror Picture Show. Queer, which is the first Q. In the past, queer was a derogatory term. I'm sure you all know that. I personally still find I don't really like it myself. But the young community around the world have reclaimed this word queer, and they've actually created a queer community. And for those of you who are in Cape Town, particularly, and I know a lot in Johannesburg as well, you will see a huge rise in the queer community, particularly post-COVID, where there are a lot of young, both male-identified and female-identified people who are dressing and presenting themselves differently to the way they are supposed to, according to the stereotypical norm that we're all used to. So you'll see young guys, for example, young men who identify as men, they identify as gay or queer, but they wear makeup or they wear slightly effeminate clothing. It doesn't mean that they are transgender. It doesn't mean that they are anything other than just a queer person who still identifies as a man. So it gets a little challenging, a little complicated as we go along, but this is why this community is growing so much and why it's so important for us to at least have a tiny bit of an understanding of where it's going to and how to identify people. The next one is questioning. This is quite simple. This is someone who's in the LGBT community and is questioning where they fit on the acronym. It's quite common, especially in the younger communities. I mean, I suppose when you're 19, you don't really know what you want for dinner. So to make a choice about who you are, that kind of choice is a little more challenging. Then intersex. The best example here is Caster Semenya. She is not able to participate in the Olympic Games women's section because she's intersex and her XY chromosomes are stronger than her XX chromosomes on some level. That makes her appear to be more masculine than feminine. So it's a little unfair on her part. So this is a purely biological thing where you're born with the bits of the two genders that we've always known, male and female. Pansexual refers to a person whose emotional, romantic, or sexual attraction towards others is not limited to biological sex, gender, or gender identity. So basically, people fall in love with the person, regardless of their sexual orientation or gender identity. Two-Spirit, this is something you'll more than likely not necessarily come across here in South Africa. The Native American cultures, particularly the southern part of Canada, where it meets the northern part of America, the places where they used to make the John Wayne Western movies, as I like to describe it. They have always lived in a belief that they have a third spiritual gender. So the youth of their communities are now bringing this new gender to life. Androgynous is a person whose gender expression or identity doesn't distinctly identify male or female. So when you look at someone at face value and the way they appear, you're not sure where they fit on the spectrum. Asexual is a person who is not sexually attracted to anybody. Now, this is very different to celibacy. So like an oath that a nun or a monk would take in the Catholic Church is very different to that. This person is just simply not attracted to anyone sexually at all. Doesn't mean they can't fall in love with someone, they're just not attracted sexually. Non-binary is an umbrella term that describes gender identity that is neither exclusively man nor woman. Now, a lot of people struggle with this concept because how can you not be? How can you're either a man or you're a woman, the end, which of course is a very binary approach. And I'll explain in a little bit. Everything works on a little bit of a spectrum, somewhere in between the two absolute endpoints. Gender neutral, gender queer, it's very similar. The gender identity label often used by people who don't identify with the binary man or woman. So very similar to gender queer. Yeah, so that kind of sums it up. There are more. There's demisexual. I heard a new one the other day called gray sexual, which is a new one as well. So there are many, many of them. Don't be intimidated by them. Don't be afraid of them. You do not need to remember them. I promise you. It's nice to know, but you don't need to remember them. I thought let me share also some interesting stuff as well. You all know this as the Pride, the gay flag, right? So if at Pride time you'll see a few organizations in our cities that will fly this flag. We've progressed beyond this because this was the original flag which represented the L and the G and the B only. So it's been important to incorporate more of the community and become more inclusive. So this is the transgender Pride flag. And then they then created this, which is the progress flag. Yeah. Was that a question? No. So this is the progress Pride flag. So they've taken the transgender and the original gay flag, they've put them together and they put a black and a brown stripe in. And the black and the brown stripe represents LGBT people of color. Then the intersex Pride flag, the intersex movement has become very big, and a lot of intersex people are actually coming out as intersex, and it's really important because they are a very valuable part of our world. This is everyone. So the global community have now created the latest version of this, the new Progress Pride flag. Now, again, I'm not going to talk about this now from a marketing perspective. I will in the next session. But as you can see, those of you who have any knowledge or understanding of marketing, this becomes very challenging because every single one of these colors clash dreadfully together. So it becomes really tough to find a really good strategy from a marketing perspective when you are on an inclusive journey. But we'll cover that in the next session. Cool. So going back to the acronym. This is all you need to know, LGBTQ+. Now imagine that there is an umbrella. If you hold an umbrella in front of you, the umbrella over your head, imagine that is the Q that kind of represents everything underneath it, the word queer. Then on the one side of the umbrella handle is lesbian and gay and bisexual. And on the other side of the umbrella handle is transgender. So essentially what that means is there's a very distinct difference between sexual orientation and gender identity. So the L, the G, the B, and all the other sexual orientations that come with it, like pansexual, asexual, demisexual, stuff I've just spoken about, that all forms the group of sexual orientations. And then on the other side of the umbrella where the transgender is, and then that would then fall underneath, there would also fall non-binary, non-conforming, genderqueer, etc. That then forms the group of gender identities. Now it's important to note that you can't be more than one sexual orientation and you can't be more than one gender identity, but you can be a combination of both. It complicates it even more a little bit for you, but it's good to know. But if you remember nothing from this session, remember the slide, LGBTQ+. That's all you need to know. And as I said right up front, and Hanley did ask the question as well, There are variations of this. Some people like to include the I, some people like to include the A, some people like to remove the plus. So the variations can be LGBTQIA, LGBTQA, LGBTIQ, LGBTIQA plus, the variations of that. As I said, I prefer to use LGBTQ plus. I find it simpler. And when I'm speaking about it, I like to say LGBT or just queer. Although some people not aren't comfortable with the word queer yet, I think we still have some growth there as a society. So I do find that people go a little bit weird when I say the word queer, because I think it brings back old men. It's like using the word morphine, pretty much, or faggots. People don't like it. It's not cool. Variations of this are very, very widely acceptable. What's not acceptable is to change the order of them. So it can't be GLTBQ, for example. If you get that right, then you're on a really good starting point.
Michael?
Yes.
Michael? Sorry, so transsexual is not actually a word. Or no.
Well,
Yeah.
it is. It refers to
The sexual orientation and not the gender or the identity.
Well, absolutely, because the trans part of that word represents gender identity, and the sexual part of that represents sexual orientation. So the two can't be combined together because gender identity and sexual orientation are very different things. You can be more than one of both of those spectrums. I mean one of each. So you can be in the gender community and in the sexual orientation community at the same time, but you can't combine the thinking together. So so if, for example, you are a transgender person who is a trans male, for example, which essentially means a person who was born a female, which the community referred to it as assigned female at birth, but for ease of reference, someone was born a girl, and then transitions to become a man. So either goes through a medical transition and has operations or takes hormone tablets and so on to get the physical attributes of a man. That person is then a transgender man. That man can still be a gay man, or that man can be a straight man. And I think Caitlyn Jenner is a great example here. So Caitlyn Jenner was born Bruce Jenner, assigned male at birth, so born as a man, went through medical transition to become a woman. So the medical operations gave him the boobs to become a female and snipped and all that stuff and took the right hormones and everything. And she now identifies as a woman because she's a transgender woman, but she identifies as a woman. But according to the urban myth, she is attracted to men. So she's a straight woman. So it can get a little complicated, but this is why this slide is quite important, because what we do here is I'm going to help you see that with all of the stuff that we're talking about, and as complicated as it feels, everything's on a scale. So we should not think in absolute terms here, or we should not think in binary terms here, I suppose. So if we look at gender identity, for example, on the one side of the scale, we have what is traditionally known as a woman, and on the other side we have what is traditionally known as a man. Anywhere in the middle of that, your gender identity is fluid. So you can be gender fluid, you can be gender queer, you can be non-conforming, non-binary, etc. You can even be transgender within that space there. So the definition is gender identity is how you in your head think about yourself. It's the chemistry that composes you and how you interpret what that means. Then from a gender expression point of view, traditionally on the one side of the scale, we know it as a person has feminine expression, and on the other side, a person has a masculine expression, and anywhere in the middle can be anything alluding to the concept of androgyny. So it's when, again, as I said earlier, when you look at someone and you're not really sure in the way they express themselves, so the way they do their hair, if they wear makeup, the kind of clothing that they wear, the way they walk, the way they sit, stuff that we can automatically judge a person by. If they're not absolute feminine or absolute masculine on a binary sense, they're somewhere in the middle of androgyny. Then from a biological sex point of view, this one we can't really argue because this is biology. On the one end we have female, we have male, which is what we all know. That's how we were raised, and then somewhere in the middle is a level of intersex. So again, as I said earlier, that is That is when biological sex refers to objectively measured organs, hormones, and chromosomes. So, for example, a female has ovaries, XX chromosomes, a male has a penis, XY chromosomes, and an intersex person has a combination of those two. Can you look at someone and say if they're intersex or not? Probably not. A sexual orientation, on the one end of the scale, we traditionally know a straight person to be heterosexual and a non-straight person to be homosexual. But it becomes complex on that scale in the middle, where we refer to the obvious one as bisexual, but it can be many variations of that. So pansexual, asexual, demisexual, anywhere on that scale, a person does not identify exclusively as the one end or the other end. And that's where the concept of LGBTQ plus people come in. It is not about being not binary. It is about being in the middle somewhere, wherever I, as a human being, am comfortable. Makes sense? Yes? Any questions on that? I know it's a lot. It's a lot of info, I know.
You know, that
Okay.
one slide actually explains more, and especially, you know, for the conversations we've had recently and people, you know, making jokes and stuff. But that one slide actually gives you the full picture. I really like that. Thank you.
Absolutely. And you know, and you may be thinking to yourself, what's this got to do with tourism and with my job and my workplace and everything? You'll see why. It's important to understand. You can't change your perception or your approach to something unless you understand what it is, pretty much. Yeah. So what's also really, really important here, if there's only two things you remember, it's the LGBTQ plus and this. There is no singular LGBTQ plus person. And we're going to play a game of little audience participation again now, if you don't mind. I know you weren't very active previously, but hopefully you will be now. The LGBT community is the most diverse community in the world, and we are in every single demographic. If you think about it, take half a second to think about it. If you're walking down the promenade in Sea Point, guaranteed you will see at least one person in the LGBT community. If you walk through Soweto, if you walk through down the Champs-Élysées in Paris, if you're walking through New York City, wherever you are in the world, you will always see an LGBT person. Many of them, but at least one. So it's really important to remember that. The community cannot be approached from a business perspective as one solid way of thinking. Because it's the most diverse community in the world, the needs and the understanding of them is very different for every single element of that acronym. So if you look at this person, for example, I think, and please shout out if you want, I think we'll all assume that this is a man, but I want you to assume that every single person you're going to see now over the next couple of slides are in the LGBT community. So make that assumption. And I want you, in your own way, to, while making the assumption that they are in the LGBT community, honestly, I don't know if they are not, and that's not relevant. This is the point of the exercise. Assume that they're in the LGBT community, and then I want you to literally judge a book by its cover. I want you to look at that person, and I want you to assume where you think they fit on that spectrum of LGBTQIA+. So my immediate thought here is that this is a black gay man. And I say black gay man on purpose, because race doesn't necessarily come into this, but intersectionality comes into the conversation. Because within the gay community, or within the lesbian community, or within the bisexual community, there's very many different elements of that as well. So a young gay man, for example, could be quite feminine in his approach. And an older gay man could be more masculine and more stereotypically like we know a man to be. So we need to be flexible in our thinking because of the diversity of the community. So again, if anybody wants to shout out what your judgment, I suppose, of the person is, it's okay to do that for now. These two ladies here, again, we're assuming that they are in the LGBT community. I think it's safe to say that they are a lesbian couple. If you look at these two ladies here, I mean, one could think that that's a mother, daughter, and grandmother, but we're assuming that they're in the LGBT community. So again, they're probably a married couple who have just had a baby through some kind of surrogacy process or through an adoption process. And then it becomes a little more challenging, a little more complicated. I've had many different ideas thrown at me of how these two could potentially identify. The one with the big curly hair, some people think that that person is a trans a trans female, others think it's a pansexual person, and so on. We don't truly know, but when we look at that person, we need to be able to have some kind of idea that they are different to us and be able to adjust our thinking quite quickly. And Jessica, this kind of alludes back to your question earlier about the use of pronouns. I mean, we don't know what pronouns to give these people. We can't make the assumption because the chances are pretty strong we're going to be wrong. Because number one, they're a lot younger than the majority of us on this call, I imagine. They're in the new Gen Z, or like the new Gen A, I think it's called, community. They think differently to the way we do. They have a cancel culture. They have a woke approach. So we, as service providers in the tourism industry, we need to obviously give them the best service that we possibly can. So how do we make that very quick call? By just looking at the person. Best way to do that is to study it a little bit deeper, understand it a little bit deeper, experience it a little bit deeper, ask questions, so that we can get to a point where we do and we can automatically get it right by guessing. I can't tell you right now what the right answer is. It's a process that you need to go
Michael,
through.
so
Yeah.
it's not offensive to then, in this case, ask the red lady, what would you like me to call you?
100%. That's the best way to do it. If you're not sure, ask. Because I mean, I suppose also, if you look at it this way, how do you know someone uses an iPhone? They'll tell you. People in the community who are quite activisty in their approach and are quite adamant about having their pronouns respected will more than likely tell you first if you don't ask them. But with that said, we mustn't rely on that. So there are many ways and many tools which we do uncover through our actual training process, where we can help you as an organization get the information that you need. So before your guest even arrives, you know. So looking at your booking forms, your processes, how do we, are you using the right pronoun options, the right title options when they're already signing up, when they're already booking, when they're, or whatever that is and whatever it is that you do in the industry. There are many ways to cross that bridge before they've even arrived, so you're not in an awkward position. That said, sometimes that doesn't happen and you are in awkward positions. I mean, I've had a couple of experiences, and now this is quite a cliched example, but it's a very real one, and it's happened to a couple of my guests a few times, where I've done a bit of the work with the hotel before they've arrived. They haven't necessarily gone as far as training, but there's been conversations, and I've been assured by their executive team that everything's going to be fine. And quick as a flash, the two guys walk in, and the check-in desk officer says, gives them 2 beds. The assumption is that because it's 2 men, they're going to have 2 beds. That automatically puts a huge damper on the entire process, and it causes a dreadful experience and dreadful reputation potentially. So it is important to be able to acknowledge when it's appropriate to ask those questions and when not. But that takes a bit of time through a training process. It's not something I can kind of just dump today, unfortunately. I wish I could. Wish I had a magic wand. So then if you look at this lady here, she also looks like a grumpy school teacher, a piano teacher. But again, if we're assuming that she's in the LGBT community, personally, I would assume that she is a trans woman. So born identified as a man and transitioned to become a woman. A lot of people think that she's a lesbian. Do we know the answers? Not necessarily, and it's not really, we don't really have the right to ask the person, are you a lesbian? But if we have a better understanding of the potential of what this person could identify as, it makes it a lot easier for us to not slip up too badly. Again, young people, we don't really, it becomes complicated. I mean, these two could be best friends, they could be lovers, they could be pansexual, they could be asexual. The point is, they're definitely in a non-binary space. They're in a queer space that is different to the way me, for example, I am. So I need to acknowledge that. I need to, at first glance, look at them, and I need to know that the chances are pretty strong that they have a different pronoun to what I do, that they identify very differently to what I do, and I need to then automatically know when to ask the right question. And if that question is, what are your preferred pronouns? Then I ask that question, because then I get the answer, and then I know. Then it's easy from there.
Yeah, so that's the most non-offensive question. I mean, if they were straight and normal, I mean, sorry, that's
No,
terrible.
no, no, that's fine. No, that's fine. It's fine to say normal because that's the perception of it.
Yeah, but that would be the most accepted answer. Instead of saying, "Are you gay?" or I mean, like just all of the weird things that I can come up with. What would be the most generic, most non-offensive question?
The pronoun route is the best way to go. It's not advisable to ask someone if they're gay or lesbian. It's like asking a fat lady if she's pregnant. It's similarly offensive.
Oh, I've had that.
Yeah. Okay, it's similarly offensive. So absolutely. If you're unsure, ask the question of what are your preferred pronouns, if any. Generally, the response is good. Obviously, I mean, I can't speak for everyone. Some people do take offense regardless. There's a lot of people are quite angry. But for the most part, that is the safest route to take. But also, if your intentions are good, and you know that you have a bit of knowledge, and the intention is good, it's going to come across as good. So you will get a good response from people. And also remember that the people who want you to know that they have a different pronoun, when you do ask that question to them, you're automatically checking a box with them. And I know this is not a box checking exercise, I get that, but you're automatically equalizing the playing field with them. You're automatically saying to them through that question that I acknowledge you, I understand you, I respect you. And I'm doing my best to include you, even though I may not truly understand it. I'm doing my best to include you into my world. And that's a very key take out there. So these two old buddies, I think that's for me the assumption that they are gay and that they finally could get married and now are enjoying the money that they can, or that they've lived in a secret life for many, many years. This is a great one as well. And from a tourism perspective, this is a massive market that we need to be very aware of. The LGBT family. It is huge, particularly out of North America. And I'm sure you probably know of a gay or lesbian couple who have kids, and they've either adopted or they've had a surrogate. So the gay couple have had a surrogate carrier, or the female couple have had IV treatment or something. It's a great market to tap into and to understand as well. So when two men and a child walk into a hotel room, for example, don't assume that they're buddies with one of their kids. The chances are pretty strong that it's a married gay couple with children. And this one here, this is a very interesting one. And I think it's important that I raise this. We all know this is a drag queen, right? I mean, how beautiful is that makeup? It's just insane how talented these people are. But the drag queen, people shoot me down for this, is not in the LGBT community. I get very frustrated when people talk to me about ideas for LGBT events and so on, and the first thing they think is they want to have a drag performer at their event. Yeah, drag performer is very entertaining and so on, but a drag queen is not in the LGBT community. A drag queen is a character, just like any actor, like Mickey Mouse, like Superman, like a character that Tom Cruise plays in a movie. It's a character that they perform. They are a real person underneath that, and they become someone else. The chances are pretty strong that the person behind the makeup and the costume is gay or is in the LGBT community on some spectrum, but the actual drag character is not in the LGBT community, and that's very important to note. And we'll unpack this a little bit more in the marketing session when we talk about marketing in the next session. Interesting, right? Okay, cool. Another quick little video for you to watch. I need someone to tell me what they saw, please. Anyone? There's 30 people in the room here. Anyone? I'll pick on someone. Let me pick on someone. I'm not afraid to pick on someone. Charmaine, are you there? or Leanne? Tell us what you saw. No, they're not there. I think we can agree that.
There I
Yeah.
am. Hi.
Hi.
I saw families.
Family. Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely. Cool. Anyone else want to share what you saw?
I would say a more traditional coupling.
Absolutely. Hanneli put it perfectly earlier. You said the word normal, because that's the perception that that is what is normal. And it is normal. There's nothing abnormal about it. Absolutely. Now have a look at another little video. Let me share. And now, anyone want to share what you saw differently? Anyone? 3, 2.
Extraordinary families.
Extraordinary families. Okay, I like that.
Woo-hoo.
I like that.
Yes.
Anyone else?
Quirky people, quirky families.
People. I like that too. Anyone else?
Yeah, I still saw family, but it's still diverse. It's just more diverse.
Exactly. So when we get to a space in the world where we see those two videos as the same, then we've got it right. There is no difference between a man and a woman getting married and a woman and a woman getting married. When people ask you, when people say, have you been to a gay wedding? You say, no, I've been to a wedding. And that's what's important.
And it's the same with racism, you know, like, have you been to a black wedding? No, I've been to a wedding. Oh, I love that, Michael.
Exactly. So ideally we need to get to that point. But the point here is, I'm actually talking about stereotypes here. We as society have created our own stereotypes based on many different reasons. And when we do that, we automatically create challenges for the people we're stereotyping. So in this particular context, we're talking about LGBT people, of course. So if we do dig deep into the stereotypes that we have, what kind of challenges do you think, in fact, let's actually ask the question. Can someone shout out a stereotype about a gay person?
I would like to say something.
Yes.
Stereotyping.
Yes.
In the tourism industry, it becomes a little bit challenging when you guys share rooms. In my case, for instance, I work with a lot of students, American students that come abroad. And we ask the company that we work with rooming list. So when it comes to the rooming list, they sent us the rooming list where women share with women, male share with men. But when we have a non-binary or when we have an LGBT student, they presumably put this person straight away into a single room. So part of the challenges is like presume that, or already telling you that person you don't belong to A, you don't belong to B, or you just don't belong. And the students, the first thing they come is like, why I'm not sharing room? Why I wasn't asked if I was comfortable sharing with A or B? Why do I have to have a private room? Like, what makes me different that I'm the only one who has a private room? So I think more of the challenges, especially when it comes to tourism of the groups, is that perception of this person wants to be on his own because it's nobody else like him or her or he or each or she, whatever the person preferred to be called. So that's, I would say, most of our challenges that we faced.
So Angelica, I can ask, how do you overcome those challenges?
Normally, normally when the students arrive, they know people. Normally I ask, are you guys happy to share a room? What, you know, like they need to decide between them. Normally the other students have no issues with sharing rooms. So it's like, I give this person opportunity to like tell me, first of all, how do you want to be addressed? And second, because like you see now, the list is very big and we by the eye cannot know what are your preferences. And then we ask them, what do you want? You want a private room? You want to share with one of your students' friends? And then they decide. They have to decide between themselves, you know, because I cannot just decide that this person needs a private room because it has a different sexual orientation.
Well, absolutely. And that's why it's so important. Thanks for sharing. That's why it's so important. As the service providers in the industry, we need to take a step back, and we need to look at how are we addressing this within our own organization. So when we're taking that booking, for example, what are our processes that are allowing for the possibility and the eventuality that something like that is going to happen, so that before the travelers even get to the destination, it is already covered, it's already cleared, and everything, and they already walk into an inclusive space. So that's important. And that comes with training, that comes with education, that comes with strategy, with consultancy, which I'm going to go into. And I see we're actually running a little bit out of time, so I need to move a bit faster. I always do. So let's jump into stereotypes, and I've done it again, sorry. Which one is it now? That one there. Okay. Oh, why is it doing that? Don't want that. Sorry. 1 second. There we go. I don't know what's doing this. There we go. Okay. So stereotypes that we create ourselves as human beings always create challenges. To give you a few, I would normally ask questions, but I'm not going to now. From an LGBTQ perspective, challenges that they faced in general life. Angelica's beautifully pointed out one specific to our tourism industry, but holding hands in public, it's a huge challenge. Even in South Africa, it is a challenge. People still get looked at very strangely when they do it. Being the only one, being the only non-binary person in one of Angelica's student trips from America, and suddenly they arrive there on their own. Why am I being singled out and pointed out here? Bathrooms, we've spoken about that briefly. How do we solve that? There are many solutions which I can help with. I'm not going to go into too much detail now, we don't have time, but it's important to at least address it and start the process of finding a solution. And then this is one of my favorites. What a beautiful picture. Very clearly a happy family, but the challenges that they're faced with, and I think, Jessica, you may have alluded to it earlier, or someone did, they're going to turn their children gay. They're going to, as far as even abuse them and sexually abuse them, because apparently all gay men are. It's a huge challenge that is faced, and we need to be aware of these challenges so that within our organizations we can ensure that they are addressed and eradicated. Any questions so far?
Hi, Michael.
Yes, hi.
Yes, mine is, I've actually been struggling to find ways to actually address this or question this. It's regarding the last slide, and also there's a slide that you showed where you have two males, right? Two gentlemen and a child. So mine is that, at what stage are kids actually taught that, this is normal? I don't know, I don't want to sound insensitive, but to say, you know what, this is our life, number one. Plus, if two gents adopt a child that's already school going, maybe if I can just stretch it a bit. I know we're talking about tourism, but it's just ringing in my mind that how do we actually, educate the kids to say, regarding your bullying, as an example, at school level, to say, my dad is coming to pick me and my dad is coming to pick me today. Just that. Thanks.
Good. Thanks for your question. And yes, we are talking about tourism, but your question is very valid, because in order for us to get it right in tourism, we need to get it right on the human level. And your question is based on the human level, which is perfect. So I think you can safely assume that an LGBT couple with children, so an LGBT family, they've already shifted the stereotype and the perception and the myths around what we used to know as normal, and they've created a new normal for it. So that child invariably is going to live in a very happy home where they have two fathers, or they have two mothers, or they have a mother and a father, of which one of them is a transgender person, whatever that scenario looks like. It's essentially no different to a child who grows up with one parent in a single household, or it's the same thinking. And if we take the same approach towards it, we're going to normalize it. If we bring in the conversation of, oh, this is not normal. At school level, absolutely, a lot of work needs to be done there. I mean, it's quite appalling even the private schools, that they're getting it so unbelievably wrong, and it's frightening. And the education does need to come in, absolutely. But from a tourism perspective, if we understand it and we shift our processes to simplify it and make it easy for us as the service providers and our staff, often most of the time staff who don't understand it, if we help them understand it, then it normalizes it. And it becomes a whole new norm, which is, oh goodness, I nearly left the meeting, which is exactly what we want to do. Does that help?
Great. Yeah, thanks.
Fantastic. Okay, let's move on quickly. So we are running about our time here. So a couple of questions that I've just thrown here as well, which is important to consider in the thinking here. And I'm going to get into a more practical approach a little bit later of the steps you can take to make the necessary changes if you choose to. So how do stereotypes and prejudices affect our LGBT colleagues? And for me, this is so important because most people, when they talk about LGBT tourism, talk about the bottom line, the value, the $568 potential billion by 2030. They talk about how we must treat the traveler, etc. We're forgetting about our internal stuff. We need to get it right inside first. When we get that right, then the rest will flow naturally. The chances are very strong you have LGBT people working for you or with you. You may know it, you may not know it. It might be in a situation where if you don't know it, there's a reason you don't know it, because that person is probably not in an environment where they can actually be their true authentic selves at work, because something is blocking them. So we need to look at those processes as well. And that's really, really important. So discrimination. And these are actual facts that are pulled from research. LGBT employees frequently face discrimination in hiring, promotion, and other employment decisions due to stereotypes and prejudices. This can limit their career advancement and their opportunities. Harassment within the workplace. Over 1/3 of LGBT employees reported experiencing harassment at work, including verbal abuse, physical harassment, and sexual harassment because of their sexual orientation or gender identity. Transgender employees and LGBT employees of color face an even higher rate of harassment. This is a reality we're talking about. Pressure to hide identities. Stereotypes pressure LGBT employees to hide their identity and act straight to avoid discrimination and harassment. I know that's not always the case, and I do know and I do acknowledge and I respect that for the most part, the leaders in our tourism industry don't think this way, and they are creating different spaces. I do get that. But there are still gaps that need to be filled. So by doing this, it forces them to live double lives and be inauthentic at work. And when you're inauthentic at work, you're not going to grow. You're not going to progress. We spend most of our time at work. We want to be safe there. Negative workplace culture. I mean, that's toxic. We know that. It doesn't work. So 2/3 of LGBT employees reported hearing negative comments, slurs, and jokes about LGBT people. And remember I said earlier, and I don't mean to be the doomsayer here and criticize it. That's not the point here at all. But levels of homophobia are very real. Homophobia doesn't necessarily equal hate speech or blatant bad behavior. It could mean saying things incorrectly, disrespecting a person unintentionally. It does create hostile environments. So it's really important to do proper detailed training to get a deep understanding of all of this. Negative psychological effects. Stereotyping and prejudice can cause LGBT employees to experience self-doubt, self-loathing, low esteem, and feelings of alienation. Can you imagine the stress of having to deal with all of that as well? I mean, life is hard enough already. Let's make it easy. So to create a truly inclusive workspace, it is critical to challenge stereotypes, call out prejudice behavior, and create a culture of respect and belonging for LGBT employees. Now, what happens if we don't do that? And this is going to speak directly to the people who care about the numbers. I do care about the numbers, but I care more about people. We lose that. You make one mistake, they're gone. They tell their friends, and they don't come back. And you don't want to lose that, because at the end of the day, are running a business. So we need to get it right internally, through the many processes that are available, which I'm going to share with you in a second, so that we can become an inclusive environment for our employees and for our customers, so that we can grow even more than we already are as an industry and as an organization. Another quick video.
I mean, when we bought our bed.
Oh my God. Wait, are you two a couple?
Yeah. Yes. Mm-hmm.
I thought you were brothers.
Oh. Nope. No.
Are you sure you're not brothers?
Yep. Pretty sure.
Yeah?
Not brothers.
Not brothers.
No. Which one's the guy and which one's the girl? We're both guys. Right. Okay. But like, you know.
Do you two just check out guys together all the time?
Yes.
Oh my God, you guys are getting married? I've never been to a gay wedding. Can I come?
We just met you.
Oh, I don't mind. We were thinking of starting by painting the living room first.
Oh,
What color do you guys think we should go with?
I don't know. What colors do you like?
Oh, well, we had talked about pewter.
Yeah. Is that a good color? Why are you at?
Oh. You know, my cousin's gay. Terry. You know Terry? Yeah, gay Terry.
Yeah. Gay Terry.
Everyone knows
Gay Terry.
You guys, I need to pick out an outfit for the company Christmas party. Will you help?
Why are you asking? Just checking on your room. 2 queens? He's talking about the beds. Oh, so when you guys are on a date like this, who pays? So when you guys slow dance, who leads?
Who plans the brunch place? Do you guys take turns?
We own a brunch restaurant chain. Yeah, of course. But you guys just wear each other's clothes, right? Actually, that we do. We do that once.
Yeah.
Yes, that's great.
I need a new gay best friend. Will you be my new gay best friend?
We just met you.
You guys don't watch Real Housewives?
Are you sure you're gay? We're pretty sure.
Are you gonna have gay babies?
I'm sorry, what?
Gay babies. Can I be your surrogate? Oh, our babies would look so.
We just met you.
So if you guys have kids, are you gonna let them play sports?
Why would we not let our kids play sports?
I don't know. I just thought like musical theater and stuff, you know, plays, dances.
Who's the twink and who's the leather daddy?
Wow. Wow.
Wow.
Who wants wieners? You guys, right?
Oh, will you be my escort to the gay pride parade? I mean, you need a gay to get into one of those things,
You
right?
do. You need a gay to get in. And yes, we will go with you.
Oh, you're gonna be my gatekeeper.
So I've watched that movie hundreds of times and I laugh every single time. Yeah, and it's just it's a perfect example of what I've been saying about the homophobic comes in different shapes and forms. Their intentions are all wonderful and amazing, and they really like they're not hurting anybody by saying what they're saying, but the potential to offend people is quite strong. So we do need to be aware. All right, let's move on because we are running a little bit out of time. So this third section we're going to chat about is creating an inclusive workspace. I'm going to talk you through some practical ways that you can actually do this. So how do we create an inclusive environment? I've given you all of this information about the stats and the value and why it's important, and I've made you think a little bit about our own personal beliefs and how we think and why we say the things that we say and so on. And it's been sometimes personal and sometimes way off the tourism topic. But we need to kind of bring it all together and say, well, how do we create an inclusive environment? Well, step number one is you need to invest. You need to invest time and money into an inclusivity transformation process. So someone like us, AfriGay, which our training brand is called All Stay. But there are a few of us around the world who do it. In fact, there are 6 of us who are approved by the International LGBT Travel Association to provide the training for the accredited process, which I'll chat about in a sec. It's a good starting point to start tapping into the ways to create an inclusive environment without watching YouTube videos and guessing it. So the way in which we approach this is in 2 separate phases. So the first one is a sensitivity and awareness training program. So this is for everyone. Everybody needs to be trained on some level. What we're finding is that organizations our counterparts are offering executive training only, and we've got a number of people who are requesting executive training only. We do resist it because it's no use the people sitting in the big office upstairs knowing this and not the people who are actually talking to the customers and dealing with them on a face-to-face level. So our training the training across the 6 companies around the world is all standardized. We all have the same approach. But essentially what that entails is we talk about the fundamentals of gender identity and sexual orientation, building a shared understanding amongst employees. So the little bits we tapped into today on a much bigger scale. We talk about understanding inclusive language and terminology to promote respectful communication. We've also tapped on that very slightly today, but we go into a lot of detail there and a lot of role-playing environments where we can actually experiment and play and actually make the mistakes in the room so we know how to fix them. Identifying and addressing unconscious biases. This is the most important element for us. We spend a lot of time helping people understand why they believe what they believe so they can shift that if they choose to. Exploring discrimination, harassment, and prejudice faced by LGBT individuals in the workplace. We've touched on it very briefly today, but it's a great conversation in a workshop environment, especially in a workplace environment, because you can then tap into what it is in your own organization where those things are happening, because you may not be aware of it, but the chances are strong that they are. And we uncover myths and perceptions about the community. I mean, I've already done one about the drag queen community, for example. And then allyship is a really important conversation for us in advocacy, because without that, LGBT inclusion cannot exist. We can't be exclusive while we're trying to be inclusive. And then another element that we offer, which can be very valuable to an organization to help you on an inclusive journey, is consultancy. So the way we approach this is we do an LGBT cultural competency audit of your organization. We talk about diversity inclusion group development. By establishing a support group within your organization or something. There's many ways we do that with you we will find something that suits you. Big organizations, small organizations, they all need different ways of doing this. Human resource policies and procedures. This is really, really important for us because we forget about this. Do we have gender inclusive language in our contracts, in our HR contracts, our employment contracts? Benefits is it all truly equal? Parental leave, people don't have that conversation. You know, parental leave, one automatically assumes mommy and daddy. What about daddy and daddy, or mommy and mommy? You know, so we help see things differently and help you think. And then what does this all achieve? This particular process that I've called step 1 here. It helps review and update your policies, benefits, and support systems to be more inclusive of both your employees and your customers. And again, I'm an advocate for the employee first. Improves employee engagement, productivity, and retention by creating a more welcoming and equitable work environment for LGBT individuals, which kind of makes sense in the big picture. It enhances an organization's ability to serve LGBT customers and clients by increasing your cultural competency. So if for example, if you're a hotel or a place of accommodation and you have a young 21-year-old Muslim lady, for example, as a housekeeper who's just doing an honest day's work and making money to help support her family and to, help in the household, and she walks into a room and there's one bed and 2 pairs of men's shoes. We never ask her how she feels about that, but we can help her understand it differently so that it becomes an easier experience for her and as a result for the customer. It also achieves a compliance with anti-discrimination laws and promotes workplace culture of respect and dignity. But essentially, it gives LGBT people the opportunity to bring their authentic selves to work and to shine. So now step number 2 is to go global. And I'm a huge advocate of IGLTA. I'm a very strong, very involved member. It's International LGBT Travel Association. You all know Martina Barth. I'm not sure if she's on the call or not. She is the membership manager for IGLTA for South Africa. So you can reach out to her or to me and I can do the intro there if you want. They're an association organization, so they don't do the work for you, but they've got an incredible network and an incredible opportunity to find the right kind of resources. And if you're positioned there as an inclusive supplier or an inclusive service provider, you're automatically reaching out to a very big LGBT buyer market. Then very briefly about their accreditation process, which I did mention, we are one of 6 companies in the world who are approved by them to offer the process. Again, I'll share this. I'm not going to go through too much detail of it, but their accredited process is not a training or education program on how to be inclusive. It's an auditing process. So you need to do the work if you choose to, in order to become audited by them to get the accreditation. And that's our step 1. That's where we can help create those experiences for you and help you shift the thinking and shift the approach so that you can become there. So their assessment criteria stems out of everything that I've spoken about today and everything that, in my opinion, needs to happen in an organization to be able to reach that ultimate goal of true inclusivity. They audit your process on 8 very, very clear criteria. First one is they want a public displayed non-discrimination policy or customer charter. That's challenging in South Africa in some places, but there's many ways around that. So I'm in communication with them about shifting that, so that it's important for the LGBT community to see that you are doing the work to be inclusive. How you display that, there's many ways. It's not about putting a sign outside your door, but there's many ways. Number 2, staff LGBT sexual orientation non-discrimination policy. I'm imagining most of you have that in place already, purely because our labor laws indicate that you have to have them there. But sometimes the gender neutral language is not always right. Complaints, whistleblowing, and watchdog procedures, we can help find the right processes for you there without becoming tattletales. But it's important that people feel safe in a working environment, that they can speak up if something is not right. Dedicated LGBT customer champion. Everyone again picks the token gay. I always recommend that they don't. And it's working very well when a straight person, an ally, becomes that person. Shifts the dynamic quite beautifully. LGBT community support program and marketing strategy. That's a really important one. And again, we'll chat about that in session 2. But if you're going to do the work here, you want to reap the rewards. So marketing strategies are really important. Number 6, LGBT inclusive marketing communications. That's similar. In fact, the first one lends more to getting involved in something like a pride organization or some kind of LGBT specific NPO or something. It doesn't have to cost money. There's many ways to do it. Third-party references are easy enough to find. And of course, the 8th one and the most important one is that diversity and sensitivity training is completed by all of your employees. They are adamant about that. It has to be all employees, or at least close to all as possible. It's not just about the C-suite. That's a lot of information, I know, but I'm happy to share separately if anybody is interested. Cool. So I call this case studies, not really, but the work that I've been doing with Cape Town Tourism, they've been spectacular in their approach to help us make Cape Town gay again, because that was a bit of a rip-off of our dear friend in America. So we're not really allowed to use that. But what we did is we've created a campaign called Go All Out, and they are following the majority of those 8 steps, even though they're not necessarily going to be applying for an IDLT accredited process at this stage. They saw the value in following those 8 steps, because it does sum the entire experience up, and it does result in an inclusive environment. The idea here with Go All Out, Explore Cape Town as You Are, is from a destination perspective to work with their partners, so their members and their non-members and anyone who's in the tourism industry on some level. I mean, as we all know, that's not just about the obvious stuff. There's many ways to be in the tourism industry, to work with them, to co-brand, to co-create, to position the offering, the amazing product we already have in Cape Town as an inclusive offering. So it's not about creating new gay experiences. It's about taking what we have and shifting the thinking. So that it becomes, and that so you can all become an inclusive environment. So there's many ways we're going to do this with various different marketing campaigns and so on, both digital and out of home and all over the place. And a lot of training has already taken place. And there's huge value for everyone involved, because everything we're talking about today kind of sums it up into taking the right step forward to be positioning ourselves as an inclusive organization. And it takes the concept of moving away from we welcome everyone, because we should be welcoming everyone anyway. It's actually our job at the end of the day, to taking it to the next level of being truly inclusive and understanding where the challenges lie and finding the right ways to change them, so that it all becomes normalized eventually. I'll be out of a job hopefully in the next couple of years. So that's that in a nutshell. And then I've got time for one last little story. So the very first hotel that was trained in Africa, and I can say it, is the Garden Court Victoria Junction in Cape Town. We did a training process with their entire staff about 2 years ago, I think it was. And I know that they have a number of gay-specific groups that come in. Usually the group size are usually between 12 and 16 people. They come in from both America and Canada. They probably have about 6 a year. So it's not a massive booking, but it's a very valuable one. And they've been coming there for a long time. And since the training, the feedback that I've received from the travel companies who do the booking is that they've seen a very distinct change in the energy and the approach from the staff. And I happened to bump into a group that was here I think it was 3 months ago. I'm losing track of time. I think it was about 3 months ago. And I was chatting to them randomly. I didn't tell them who I was or how I knew the hotel or anything like that. And I kind of fished for with questions to get specific kind of answers out of them. And the majority of people, in fact, all of the people said to me similarly that the hotel is amazing. They're just the understanding is cool. And then one particular traveler said to me that he said it's so bizarre, and he's very well traveled, and he said it was so bizarre because he said his exact words were, and I quote, it says, if all of the staff are gay. And I said to him, what do you mean by that? Of course, I knew what he meant, but I didn't let him know. I said, what do you mean by that? And he said, I don't know. It's just as if they get us. And I then came clean and I said to him, well, actually, it's because they really do get you, because they've taken the time and the effort to, number one, get the training. And then beyond the training and beyond the work that they've done internally, they've continued to do that work. And they've actually practiced it and they've actually got it right. And I think that's a very beautiful testimonial to the work that we do as a start, and the work that can happen amongst our entire tourism inbound tourism industry in South Africa. It's really possible to get this right. So in conclusion, let's not conclude yet. I'm going to skip past that. Are there any questions at this point before we close? We've got about 3 minutes left of my presentation.
Yes, Michael, can I come in?
Sure, with pleasure.
Yeah, this was quite educational, and especially from my side, I would say, because we're running a business in the village, we've got a camping site, and we're planning on having a pride camp. So it's going to be a process for us because we always engage the chief, So it's a bit of that engagement and education. That let's pack that, because I want to believe that we're still going to continue, and I'll also get your email to be asking some questions further on. Just a quick one. Is it correct to still say pink market, or are we saying LGBTQ community?
Okay, so yes, the pink market is not incorrect. The pink and referring to the pink dollar is not incorrect, but it does become a little limiting, because the pink traditionally, stereotypically, refers to the stereotype gay that wears pink feather boas and walks around flamboyantly. And that's a very real part of the gay community. Those people exist, but it is a little exclusive to the entire community. It is better to refer to it as the LGBT community or the queer community. Again, I'm not a huge fan of queer community, but it is accepted. It's better to refer to LGBTQ as opposed to pink. Another way of looking at it is a lot of people refer to the stereotype that gay travelers have got lots of money, more disposable income, etc., and they refer to it as the pink dollar or the pink pound. Cool, that's great, and it's relatively true. But what we forget is that behind the pink dollar is an actual person, not a pink person, a person. So we mustn't lose sight of that. Yeah.
True. Thank you.
Cool.
Thanks, Michael. So just from my side, I think I've learned that I know very little. To take this process forward, the training that these 6 companies provide, is it online, is it in person, is it per company, or is there sort of general sessions? So we've got quite a few people here now, but smaller companies, maybe 5 employees, 6 employees. How do they access this kind of training?
Okay, so because it's me, and because I have developed the training program, and because I facilitate it, I'm obviously very flexible, and I know that we need to be flexible about it. We are in the process of putting all of the content into an online space. We should be ready to launch in about 3 months' time, with the first 3 modules of the program, which then makes it a lot more accessible and a lot cheaper as well. We have global prices, and we will have South African prices as well. Because I get it. I mean, the dollar is horrible for all of us, and we don't want to chase people away. So that opportunity is there. But in the interim, we can definitely look at creating a combined collective training process. I do prefer a lot of what I spoke about today comes out of the training processes. So we elaborate on all that. I do prefer to do it in an in-person space, because I think the interaction becomes more real. And you may have noticed, it is important to talk and to be able to share your thoughts, and to be able to be honest and ask the question that you think might be stupid. Yeah, absolutely. We can definitely create an experience that becomes more accessible for smaller companies. From an accreditation perspective, unfortunately, I'm a little limited there at the moment, and I am pushing with RTLTA to shift this, and they are definitely working on this. Currently, the accredited process is only available to hotels, and it is per hotel. So if it is a group of hotels, or if you've got more than one property, sorry, hotels in any accommodation environment, not just hotels. So guest houses, B&Bs, and so on, that they also qualify. It is for them only, but it is property specific. It can get a little pricey. I think their price is a $200 once-off fee, and then I think it's a $300 per year fee for the audit process. So it's an annual thing. But everything's negotiable, and I'm happy to talk to them if needed. And they are very, very flexible. The other 5, they're my competition, so you can use them if you want, but yeah.
Well,
they're all around the world anyway. They're all around the world, yeah. We will be the only ones who are doing the entire process in an online space when we are online.
Yeah.
We'll be the first.
The online process, is it self-paced or facilitated sessions?
It's all self-paced,
Yeah.
and we will limit it to a 6-month period. So you need to complete it in 6 months, and then 1 year after your start date, you will then have another 6-month period to do the refresher course. The refresher course will be very quick, very easy. It'll be a lot less intense, but it is self-paced, and the systems are already designed. We're just in the process of populating the content currently. The systems are very clever in that they're very flexible. So any device it's accessible on any device. Yeah.
And then just the
many languages as well. Yeah.
Yeah. Once you get the accreditation, obviously that's when they'll check how many of the staff members were trained, etc., etc. But is there a logo or a stamp that comes with it?
Yes, the RGLTA accredited logo. You will have access to that.
Okay. I might, because I know we've been talking a long time to go into a partnership with them as well, with Martina and you. But it would be nice for us to then be able to display that on our SATSA stuff as well, like we have with, or should do with Fair Trade and Dirty Boots and all of the others.
Well, absolutely. We are in a conversation currently from an all-state perspective with Fair Trade and the likes, and with the CETAs and so on to get an accreditation, because we can currently only offer our own personal stamp of approval that you've done the work. There's no, besides the RGLTA, we don't have any other global backing to support that. So we are in conversations with the likes of Fair Trade to get those stamps of approval, because I think they're important. People care about those things.
Oh, well, speaking as SATSA, which is all about credibility and the stamp, I know. And it's okay if it's just private sector too. Self-regulation is always much better.
Oh, yeah, no, fair enough. Absolutely, yeah. Absolutely.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Michael. I'm going to leave you to close off then. We do have the second session, which is marketing, and I'm going to make sure that we have everything online on our website. If you go under events and training, SATSA Training Academy, there's also the sessions will be placed there for you to have a look at. I will add all of the additional information. And then also, Michael, really excited to be able to add your contact details. Under that Training Academy, we do have a section for training providers and the different courses that they do. So keep an eye on that. But I'm sure once Michael has his online stuff sorted, we will be publishing that in a newsletter. So thank you very much, everybody, for your time. It's been really awesome. Michael, back to you for closing.
Thank you very much, everyone. One last little, to bring out the popcorn, one last little video. Where is it? I was going to skip past it. Oh, where is it? There we go.
Labels aren't a thing for me, and I think that society is just too small to be fit into boxes. I like girls, and I think that they're cute. And I've been dating my girlfriend for almost 7.5 years. So, honey, if you're watching this, hello.
I've had one boyfriend, currently single. But yeah, I like men.
So by asexual, it means that I do not experience any sexual attraction. It is not the same as celibacy or
the choice to abstain from sex.
Pansexual means that I'm not restricted to the gender, whether you are male, female, non-binary, trans. For me, it's not relevant.
For me, I was assigned female at birth, but I decided to transition roughly 4 years ago now.
Say it one more time.
No, 5, no, 3. I'm on testosterone and plan to have surgery in the future.
Because some of the things that society has taught you are for men are actually for anybody, like short hair or flannel shirts. I am good with she is.
So thank you very much, everyone, for your time. I really appreciate it. And I would be happy to answer any questions that you have post all of this.
Thank you so much. Love is such a beautiful thing. Thank you, Michael. Great session.
It is indeed, Gugu. Thank you.
It's beautifully colorful. Okay, everyone. We'll see you on the next round. If you haven't registered yet, just pop into the SATSA website, and all of the details are there for the second session, which is going to be focused on marketing, right, Michael?
That's correct. And practical stuff. Yeah, practical stuff. We're going to get down to the nitty-gritties. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Have a good Thanks.
Thanks. Bye.